Hello everyone, welcome to Frame Academy Project 3, Part 1. This part is called Meeting the Relatives. Okay. Now, first for the setup, so you're welcome to continue working on one of the projects that you started. In Project 1 or Project 2, if you've been working on a WebXR site, you just want to keep playing around with that glitch project, that's fine. If you'd like to start a new one, you're welcome to. You can press this yellow Start Your Own Project on Glitch button. That will make you a brand new project. And all you have to do to start writing your code is just navigate over here in the sidebar to the index.html document, and you're ready to start writing your code. You're welcome to simply copy and paste my starter project code right into it. Or if you want, you can even just click this remix button, which will kind of remix the project and make you a copy of it on Glitch. Remember that once you have a Glitch project open, you can view it by pressing this Show Live button. That will let you sort of view the page right away, and you'll see its URL right there. Okay, fantastic. So this is the project that I am starting with. Okay, I've got a scene. I've put the background component on it with the color property set to this nice blue. Okay, and I've got 3 boxes that are hanging out inside of it. They are inside the opening tag and the closing tag of the scene element. So the terminology here, right, is the scene is the parent element, and each of these boxes, because they're nested inside of the scene, these are the children, right, of that parent. And we can even say that the boxes are siblings of each other because they all have the same parent, right, the scene element. So we've got parent, in this case the scene, we've got the children, in this case the entities that are inside of it, the boxes, and we've also got siblings. The boxes are siblings of each other because they all have the same parent. Now I know this family lingo is a bit weird because we're talking about code and entities and not people, but it just gives us sort of a standard way to describe the relationship between these entities, a way that sort of already makes sense to us, so why not reuse it here? I'm not the only one doing this, by the way. I didn't make up this system. It's sort of a standard way of talking about HTML elements and their relationship when they're kind of nested in each other, like we're doing here. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's take a peek at our scene, right? We've got 3 boxes. They're kind of lined up like this. Look at their position values, right? One of them has an X value of -2. That's the one over here, right? It's 2 to the left. The one in the middle, this is just position X value of 0, which is why it's kind of right in the center. And then we have the third box with a position of 2, which is 2 to the right. They all have a Y value of 1. That's the value up or down in the scene, so they're all at the same position on the vertical axis. And they all have a Z value of -3, so they're all the same distance away from the camera, right? That Z value is kind of your position forwards or backwards. Now I want to show you what happens though when we nest 2 boxes inside of the first one. So I'm taking those, what I did was I took those bottom 2 boxes and I put them inside of the opening and closing tag for the first box. Okay, so here they're all just sort of out, they're children of the scene. But in this second example, what I did was I grabbed those lower 2 boxes and I sandwiched them in between the opening and closing tag of the first box. So using our terminology right now, this first box is both a parent and a child, right? It's still a child of the scene, but now it's also a parent of these 2 boxes. Okay, so the same entity can be both a parent and a child, right, if you nest them this way. So we look over at our scene and it might be a little bit confusing, right? It's like, what's going on now, right? Why did these lower 2 boxes, why did they change position, right? We didn't change their positions. All we did was nest them into the first box. So the reason why this is happening is called relative positioning, okay? And when you have an entity nested inside of another one, it'll actually base its position relative to the entity that it is under. In other words, right, this first box, it's got this y value of 1, so it's going to be 1 up from the main origin point of the scene, but the box that is under it, the box that is a child of it, if it's got a y value of 1, it'll actually be 1 above the box, right? That's why these two boxes here, they're actually 1 above this box. So they take their kind of starting point to be whatever their parent entity is, and they determine their position from that. So that's why they are 1 right above this parent box. The reason why they're farther away from the camera is because their position is -3, so that'll put it actually -3 away from the parent box, right? The parent box is -3 away from the main origin point of the scene, which is 0, 0, 0. But these two children boxes will be -3 away from their parent box, which is already -3, right? So they'll be kind of even farther away. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that sort of makes sense, but isn't their real position still, different? Like if this first box has a y value of 1, right? It's up 1, and these children boxes have a y value of 1, so they're 1 above this box. Wouldn't their real y value be 2, right? 1 plus 1. Also, wouldn't their real z value be -6 because they are -3 away from something that is already positioned at -3? And you'd be right if you thought that, right? But the position you're talking about there is called the global position, or like the world position. It's kind of like its true, real position in the context of the scene. But in the context of your code, when you have an entity inside of another one, this is called its local position, right? So in your code, you have to think kind of locally, right? These are basing their position relative to the parent entity and not relative to the scene itself. Okay. So I know that's a little bit confusing there, that difference between global position, which is kind of like its true absolute position in the scene, and its local position, which is its position relative to its parent entity. But I hope it made enough sense. If it didn't make enough sense, feel free to ask a question on our online community. Just click that orange bar, click on online community, and I'll be happy to address any of your questions. Now, there's a cool way to look at the relationship between parent entities and children entities. If we open up this scene, for example, in the A-frame inspector, right? If you open up your page, again, we did this in project 2, but you can hold down Control-Alt-I. That'll open this A-frame inspector, which is kind of like a little visual sort of editor for your scene. You'll notice that if an entity is a parent of another entity, it'll have a little arrow next to it, and you can click it to expand it out. Now you see the two boxes that are children of that parent box. They'll show up there. And notice what happens if you have the parent box selected and you move it around using the movement widget here. You'll see that the children boxes move along with it, right? Their position is really determined by the position of their parent box. So if it moves, they're going to move along with it, right? And if it rotates and changes its orientation, they also will have their orientation changed, right? So the inspector provides a pretty cool way. And also, look, now I'm scaling it up. It'll scale up not just the parent, but also its children, right? It sort of considers this like one kind of super entity, right? A parent with its children. So it's a good way to explore the relationship between them, a parent and its children. Okay, with all that said, I would like you to experiment a bit with putting entities, kind of nesting them inside of other entities. Make a few parent-child relationships in your project. Go ahead and open it up in Inspector and just experiment a bit with moving them around and rotating them, and make sure that you're seeing this this kind of relationship expressed here, so that when you move one, it'll move its children as well. And also just make sure you're setting up your code right so that you can see how to nest entities inside of other entities, right? You just put them in between the opening and closing tags. Okay, I will see you in part 2.